De'Aaron Fox is a San Antonio Spur, Zach LaVine is a Sacramento King, and the Bulls, well, they're finally sellers. This blockbuster three-team trade shakes up the league in many ways that could define multiple franchises for years to come. Today we're breaking down the full trade and analysing each team's motivations and answering the biggest question: did the Spurs just fast-track their title contention? This trade isn't just about roster moves, it changes the entire trajectory of the Spurs rebuild, forces the Kings into an all-in gamble, and signals a long-awaited reset in Chicago. Let's break down how each team approached this and what it means for them moving forward. Let's get the details out of the way first. The Spurs received De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings received Zach LaVine, Sidi Sissoko, multiple draft picks, and the Chicago Bulls received Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and a first-round pick. Each team had different goals here. The Spurs wanted a star-caliber point guard to pair with Victor Wembanyama. The Kings needed more perimeter scoring and spacing next to Domantas Sabonis, as well as staying competitive. And the Bulls, well, they finally embraced the inevitable and began a much-needed rebuild. But what do these moves really mean for each team? Let's start with the biggest winners of the trade, the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio has been very patient. They've collected young talent, they've hoarded picks, and they've let Wemby develop without forcing him into a win-now situation. But the reality is this: Wemby is already playing at an elite level. He's averaging over 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, showcasing defensive dominance we haven't seen since prime Tim Duncan, and he's leading the Defensive Player of the Year race. The Spurs needed a lead guard to take advantage of that. Enter De'Aaron Fox. As we know, Fox is one of the best pick-and-roll ball handlers in the NBA, ranking in the top 10 in efficiency over the past 3 seasons. That fits perfectly with Wemby, who has already proven to be an elite lob threat and floor spacer for a big man. This duo immediately forms one of the most dangerous pick-and-roll combinations in the entire league. Think about the defensive nightmares that creates. Do you drop in coverage and let Fox get to the rim? Well, that's a problem. He's one of the fastest players in the NBA and finishes well in traffic. Or do you hedge or trap him? Now you're giving Wembanyama an open lane or a mismatch against a smaller defender. And if you double team, the Spurs still have Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Stephen Castle, Chris Paul coming off the bench now most likely, waiting to knock down shots. San Antonio managed to make this move without sacrificing their young core of players. That means they'll still have room to improve, still own future picks, and still have the flexibility to build around Wemby properly. So where does this leave the Spurs in the ultra-competitive West? Well, right now, they're on the outside of the play-in race, but this move isn't just about making the playoffs this year, it's about building for 2025 and beyond. With Fox running the offense, Wemby will get easier looks, and his efficiency should skyrocket. That alone could propel the Spurs into the play-in conversation by the end of the season. But next year, with a full off-season together, an upgraded supporting cast, and natural progression from their young core, this team could be a legitimate top 6 threat in the West and in the entire league. Sacramento has been stuck in the middle, good enough to compete, not good enough to really contend. So they made a bold move, swapping their all-star point guard for an elite scoring wing in Zach LaVine. But does it make sense? LaVine is one of the best premier scorers in the NBA, hitting over 45% from 3 this season. That immediately helps Sacramento, who needed more spacing around Domantas Sabonis. But here's the problem: LaVine isn't naturally a playmaker. He's best as a secondary scorer, not a primary ball handler. Losing Fox means the Kings now rely on DeRozan and Monk for playmaking, and that's a risky bet. The Kings are hoping LaVine gives them the extra scoring punch to stay competitive, but they also took a massive contract and lingering injury concerns along with him. If LaVine stays healthy and meshes with the roster, this could work. If not, Sacramento just locked themselves into a long-term deal for a player who might not even elevate their ceiling. Finally, we need to talk about the Chicago Bulls. They did something smart for once. This move signals that Chicago is finally accepting reality. Yes, the haul for a player of LaVine's caliber isn't amazing, but they did get off his contract, which looked basically untradeable for a long time. The Bulls are now sellers, and that's very clear, and it's going to be interesting to see what transpires with Nikola Vucevic, Lonzo Ball and Patrick Williams, just to name a few. By trading LaVine, they clear cap space, gain assets, and set themselves up for a proper rebuild. The Bulls now have control of their draft picks, meaning they can fully commit to a rebuild and start all over again. But all in all, the Spurs get their lead guard without giving up core pieces. After being bad for so long, the Kings want to stay competitive by bringing in LaVine and getting some draft capital along the way, and the Bulls finally commit to being sellers and rebuilding for the future. But I want to hear from you. Who do you think won the trade? Are the Spurs now contenders next season? Will LaVine actually work in Sacramento? And should the Bulls keep blowing it up? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more upcoming videos and NBA content. Make sure to hit that notification bell because we're going to keep you up to date with all the trade news. My name is Damian Peters, this is Basketball Network. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.